3:01 p.m. And I will ask if there are any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. Yes, sir.
Rebecca is here.
No. We have someone on who raised his hand.
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Steve.
We can hear you. Yes.
I was just admiring my video. It looks awful on my end. I don't know if you can see me.
Looks great from over here. So if there are no additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda, let's move on to item number 3, which is anyone who wants to speak before the meeting.
I guess that would be me. I noticed that.
Please state your full name and address before you start.
Okay. Name is Steve Eddy, 6720 Boulder Street. And I was reading through past meeting agendas and was following the trail map issue. And it looks to me like it's on today's agenda, but I wanted to make sure that I could throw in a couple of comments if and when those maps ever get published. The first is that would we as residents be able to preview those maps before they're officially published? Reason being is that I think that these maps are probably the best tool that the city has for directing people on how best to make use of the city's amenities, including hiking. I could show parking areas where trash cans are, where the facilities are. Then we get to trailheads, which I have a real problem with. If we're going to designate physical trailheads on city streets, I think that's a bad mistake. I think all trailheads should originate downtown, perhaps at the swimming pool or the parking area, or maybe better still at the ambassador's desk. Because when you say trailhead or you designate a trailhead, 9 times out of 10 people are going to think parking too, and it just isn't the case. And I've been on these before and I sound like a broken record, but 3 years ago at the end of Boulder Street on a Saturday during the summer, we had 91 cars come up to the end of Boulder Street and turn around in our driveway. And that's over the top. It just causes a lot of trouble on a street that wasn't designed to handle that kind of traffic. So if you could move all trailheads to downtown areas somewhere, perhaps at the ambassador's desk, I think you would discourage all this wandering traffic along the city streets. And that's my 2 bits on the trailhead. And I know the maps are still under consideration, but I would appreciate it if residents could review those maps before they're published.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for those comments, and we'll keep those certainly under consideration as we work through a multi-pronged approach to solve that problem with a parking plan coming, with wayfinding signage coming, and with the trail maps and the trails ambassadors. It seems like we are lining up for a multi-pronged approach to solve those kind of issues.
Okay.
Not just the trail map. So we hear you. We hear you and are working in many groups to try to resolve that, as well as other issues.
Great, thank you.
So moving on to item number 4, consent agenda. We have our meetings. Our meeting minutes. Thank you, Matt. Did anyone have any changes to those minutes?
No.
They look good to me.
They look good.
Yeah, same here.
Okay. Just the spelling of my name, Matt, always ends with an E.
Oh, did I forget the E?
That's okay.
Well, I'm going to get that E in there and I'll send them back out to you.
My grandmother made a little nursery rhyme for me because everybody messed up my last name. It's remember the R and the E. Otherwise, I was stoop all the time. Hi, Rebecca. Thank you for joining us.
I wouldn't want
Glad to be here.
Did I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept.
And
I
a
second.
All in favor, thumbs up.
Yeah.
All right.
Aye.
I apologize. I haven't replaced my camera yet.
Well, we will have your voice as a yay. Thank you there. So item number 5, old business. So this is where we will well, as we start the discussion, thank you all for all the great work at the last meeting when I was unable to attend. I was really impressed by the amount of work that got done. Thank you, Jay. Thank you to you for presenting those ideas at the Board of Trustees meeting. And I think we got some good direction from the Board of Trustees on ways to clear these up. So under the item of trail maps, Jay, I know that you've probably done some work or done some thinking since the trustees meeting. Do you want to bring us up to date on where you're at?
Okay. Let me just see here. Hold on. Okay. I didn't know if I was live or not. We discussed the trail maps at that meeting, highlighting the need to keep a map, to provide a map that showed trailhead locations. And what we're talking about with trailhead locations is both the parking area and the point along and the route along the city streets that if someone would need to hike. In all of all of the maps that we were discussing, parking is directed downtown, and we explicitly say there is no point or there's no way to hike to the beginning of the trail separate from the road or beyond the road. You have to park downtown, walk the city streets, and then go on to the designated trail. So that's been the standard. Part of the problem that I think that Steve is addressing is that there are compilations or background material that has been reproduced in various forms that shows the trail itself, and that's led to confusion with users who are not familiar with the town. Our goal here is to present a map on a designated signpost downtown. Clay has highlighted a potential location for a new virtual trailhead starting point. And on that map, on that structure, we'd have a map of the of the paths to the trail, the city streets between your parking and the trailhead itself. So differentiating those two points would probably be a big improvement in the performance and behavior of our visitors. And what we also talked about doing was putting some background together to say, here are the conditions of the trail today, warning people that, for example, the Crystal Falls Trail, just below Steve's home or above Steve's home, is a steep trail that is not for the faint of heart, or not the kind of thing you do in sandals. I think the trustees liked the general idea. They wanted some more detail, and fleshing that out would probably be part of what we should do today. I put together some notes that I could share with the group. I don't know how many of you have seen this.
And Jay, before you go any further,
Sure.
I think where your discussion is right now is more in line with the topic next, which is the virtual trailhead, which is where
Okay.
that information will be. Can we stick with
Yep.
just maps before we move on?
Sure. So, I think the basic idea is that the Board of Trustees liked the approach and are waiting to see that detail.
So I'm going to ask a question, Jay. Are you
Sure.
So what I'm hearing, and maybe I'm hearing it wrong, is that we're going to, that the idea is to produce a trail map that only shows hikers how to get to trailheads.
At this time, that was the request. The town has specifically asked us not to show trails themselves because they are still in discussion with some of the stakeholders. The water department owns portions of the land that you would have to traverse to use Catamount Trail or to use the Crystal Trail that I referenced earlier. They wanted to limit what we discussed, or limit the exact inputs to that group, to that map.
So let me pose the question then to the group. If that's what the Board of Trustees has requested of us, how do we feel about that? Rebecca, I'll put you on the spot and start with you.
Okay. I don't think the Board of Trustees is interested in my feelings personally, to be honest with you. I think it's stupid. That pretty much tells you what I think about it.
But that is based on public health and safety, I would assume.
Yeah, well, how to go with this? Yes. What's the point of showing people how to get to a trail if they don't know exactly where the trail goes and what it connects to and how to orient yourself back? So that to me seems kind of silly. Now, unless all this information is going to be on the virtual trailhead that everybody is directed to look at when they leave, then that might be helpful. But how do we know people are going to look at the virtual trailhead instead of the apps they have on their phone that they follow blindly?
Yeah, and I think that you're correct there. I think the town is wanting to not be responsible for leading people to trespass, by providing a map that would
Yes,
lead
you're
them
right.
to do so. My position is, if you're a property owner who is having a trespass on your property, you should put a no trespassing sign, as Clay Gafford did, and notify hikers that way. It feels like we're in a tough position here because we're being the public is demanding trail maps, and we, it could take years to isolate these individual trespasses and correct them. So we have to have something in the meantime. I think the virtual trailhead is going to provide a lot of useful information. Hopefully that can, hopefully that's a physical trailhead, but hopefully there's a virtual component of that being online as well. The new, if the paid parking goes through, then they will be providing Wi-Fi through the downtown. Which would enable people a way to get to that app. Don, how do we solve this? We went to the Board of Trustees and we said we're in a tough position. We don't know which way to go, and they sort of gave us their input. I think we're close to having something. Did we lose Don?
I've been leaning towards the idea of having a third-party nonprofit take on this sticky subject and just give it another layer, another filter of protection for the city.
Clay.
It's a mess, like you said, when most of our trail system is built on private property, national forest in the city. I don't really know a good solution to it, to be able to keep the trails open, because the way what the towns, sort of what I got was, well, we're not going to tell them they can go on it. We'll point them in that direction, and then it's up to them that they're trespassing. But it's a tough situation. I don't know what to say.
Well, there's definitely, Clay, I think there's definitely a progression
What's
plan. For example, the Crystal Falls Trail is supposed to be walked by the town representatives and the city water department. When that is, when they have when the water department has comfort level that people can be on that, then the access point along Hondo will open up, and the Thomas Trail access will be terminus will be available, and the Crystal Falls Trail will be available. So it's a progression to bring these forward. You're right to say that it may take some time to understand all of the property issues, but in the meantime, some fraction of the trails, particularly the Wallace Reserve, which is very nice, can be highlighted and referenced. If I can put up a bit, Matt, I'd like to show the that trail summary piece that I proposed for during that meeting.
You are now the co-host, so if you'd like to share.
Okay, good. You should be getting a Excel spreadsheet. I'm kind of old school. I use Excel for a lot of things. And this is a piece that would go alongside a trailhead map on the straw man that I put up in front of the Board of Trustees. It would be a summary of where the trailheads are. Now that's the beginning of the physical trail, a 2-foot wide walk through the woods. But alongside that would be a map that shows how those locations can be reached from the parking area, and it includes some background information on the trail. This is the length of the trail and the vertical gain that was taken from some of the trail descriptions on Cotrex. And then some comments. These are based on these were comments I made as of the beginning of the month. Comments like Catamount not recommended because it does have a significant ice dam even now. Some background like this would direct people or give them understanding of where things are going. It puts the Terrell and the Pittman Trail projected opening in front of people, saying it's not open now, but it will be open later in the summer. It includes background like the Wallace Reserve, which is not as commonly picked up by guests. Inevitably, guests come in and go, "Where's the waterfall?" As we did this, I was proposing to put this on a signpost. This is the signpost that Clay had pictured, and we put a trailhead map and background here for the ambassadors to discuss with visitors as they arrive at the parking areas. And the parking areas would be abridged from the old trailhead map. This probably needs to be modified slightly, but it points to the parking areas alongside Maple Street, parking area at Olathe, and the parking area downtown to give people that connection. So the parking areas would be here, and they'd hike up city streets to reach the trails. And that was the scheme that I sketched to the Board of Trustees.
Jay, can we go back to your Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, you're tagging this one.
Of the trails that you have listed there, which ones are not involved in a dispute?
Not involved in contention or, okay. Catamount would be, I think it's easier to point to the ones that are. Catamount is let's just say, okay. And owner concern on Catamount. My knowledge, that's the only one. And I may not have a complete story. Along the, okay.
My understanding is that is one, and also our understanding from Angie reporting at one of the last meetings that the Forestry Department and Colorado Springs Utilities said that they were okay with us not closing those trails, but they didn't want us to have them.
They wanted to delay the access to Crystal Falls, for example. Is that correct?
They didn't want us to show those public lands on our trail map. Colorado Springs Utilities and the Forestry Department.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing anything.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I can't, I'm not hearing anything, folks.
Okay.
Why don't you turn off your camera, Jay, so that you're getting more audio out of your bandwidth? That does no good if he can't hear you. I'm going to put this in the chat.
Looks like he just sent a message saying he was going to restart his
Right.
computer, maybe.
So I guess while he's restarting, I guess what I'm asking Don and Rebecca is if that's what the Forestry Department has requested, and that's what CSU has requested, you know, could we go a little bit further than just the trailhead locations and at least show the trails that are within the town limits, that there's no dispute with the knowledge that this is a temporary trail map, and you know we're not going to print 10,000 of them and never print them again. This is a 2021 version. Is that better than only going to the trailheads? You know, my concern with only going to the trailheads is we get people at least to the starting point if we get them to a trailhead, and then they can follow the marked trail signs. And, you know, if at some point we're asked to close a trail, that's easy to do. But, you know, we have to start with something. And I don't think that just getting people to the trailhead is ideal, but at least it does get them parked in the right place, on the right streets to get to the trailhead. And at that trailhead, there can be some posted information.
Jesse, I think this is a great start. I hadn't seen Jay's presentation to the Board of Trustees, But I think that his description of the trails combined with how to get to the trail is an excellent starting point. I like progress, and that at least is progress.
I think that and I agree with you. If I didn't have any knowledge of that, I think I would be stuck. And if I didn't have any knowledge of, and I think I can share with you, and I'll wait till Jay comes back on, but we have some, during our wayfinding signage committee that started up yesterday as a steering group. One of the ideas discussed was to put some wayfinding signage at community entrances, which would say, this is a residential area, and it would list the only ways, the only things in that area, or, are residential homes, or if there's a hiking trail, it can say that, but it can also say, there's no parking, with some wayfinding signage to discourage people from driving into neighborhoods. Virgil made it very clear yesterday that unless neighborhoods want to become HOAs and maintain their own roads, we can't say to the public they can't drive on them. We can discourage them with signage and with better alternatives. So having that knowledge in mind makes me think, this might work okay with the trail maps for our 2021 version.
Yes, and maybe also adding with the trail ambassadors, telling people, do not drive up Boulder. I mean, I feel for Steve Eddy. That's sad.
Thank you.
Nancy?
I know I'm not a member of the committee, but can I say something through the ambassador lens?
Please.
So what, and Steve, hi, I'm Nancy Dixon.
Hi.
I'm going to be coordinating the volunteers for ambassador program this summer. And
Okay.
one of my thoughts is not only having 1 or 2 ambassadors down at that virtual trailhead that's down by the creek, but it sounds like one of our really troublesome spots is Boulder Street. And so just having a physical trail ambassador there down at the bottom of Boulder Street and just getting familiar with the cars that are residential there and the people, hitting those people, the hikers, before they even get up to Boulder Street, and just sort of giving them some gentle reminders about, if they're in a car, sorry, you have to park down by the creek, or, not sorry, but this is where we park. Or if they're hiking, please respect this. It's a residential area. Please enjoy the nature and listen and be quiet. That'll come up a little bit later in this meeting. But I just want to let you know that that's sort of what I have in mind, depending on how many volunteers I have. I'd really like to spread them out to our troublesome spots and, just really sort of put a physical person there that sort of has a green t-shirt on and a little bit of, not a lot of authority, but at least someone that they can interact with and just give them gentle reminders.
Well, that would be great if you could do that.
Yeah. I'm going to, sorry, I apologize for being, for dropping off. Steve, I've turned around several people along Boulder Street, explain the access limitations over time. At my house in Colorado, I've had people parking here occasionally, but not as many, because they just get lost and they just stuck the car wherever they could. But if we start with that signage and improve the signage to the point that people are unlikely to miss the instructions. Most of the people want to integrate and want to enjoy the trails without intruding. They're here to relax and enjoy nature. they'll go along with that, but they have to recognize what's going on. And usually they're unfamiliar with the area. They just don't know where they are. They get a third-party app that tells them just go up there and you'll see this stuff. And it's not very detailed. We've been trying to improve that over time. I know some of the folks from the Trails Committee have sent background to Cotrex, which is a Colorado state organization, and they're under those maps and situations are vetted and controlled. So we can improve the situation in that end, and if we improve the situation on our end downtown, we've got a better, we can reduce that traffic.
All right, Jay, it sounds like, and we made a little bit of progress while you were away.
Probably much better progress when I'm away. Come on.
Yeah, no, I'm going to drag us back to the topic that we're on, which is trail maps. And while you were away, we seem to get a little bit more support from our group regarding doing a trail map that gets folks safely and correctly to trailheads. So if you would share your trail map again, let's take a look at it and see if we can do any deletions or corrections.
Sure. Okay, I'm gonna, Matt, you have to give me sharing rights again.
Can't leave this time.
I didn't leave. It disappeared on me. I'm gonna stop my video to improve bandwidth here. Okay, you should have a share of that screen by now.
We do.
Good.
And so
Okay.
of a few of the things that I'm noticing is we should add the parking over by the tennis courts.
Okay, that would be right about here.
And
Take a little, this is a very rudimentary drawing. This is, let's call this right here. That would be, oh, that's that's too rudimentary. Okay, I'll just mark that for now. It's in red.
Okay.
But that would be
also the
this.
Joyland
Okay.
Parking Lot.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Joyland Parking Lot is about here. This map does not. This map reflects Green Mountain Falls prior to the annexation. So it doesn't show Joyland, but let me put another insert there. Just going to put a big square there.
Okay. Then we have the old gravel yard or livery.
That would be right about here.
Correct.
At the end of, I think that's off El Paso. I forget the name of that little street, but let me put another one there. Okay.
There's also a little bit of parking on Howard, right behind the Lakeview Terrace.
Okay. Oh yes, I know where you mean. That's right about here, I believe. And that would have to be tilted to rotate it. That's
And then
not quite that much, but that's behind the renovations that have been done on the old hotel building.
correct. And then the last one
Okay.
that I'm aware of is on El Paso Avenue, opposite of the parking lot that you just did. There's some parallel, some diagonal parking. Yes, right there where your cursor.
Right there.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
there's maybe 10 spots there, so that's important to highlight.
Yep. Okay. This is strictly a working copy, and what I want to do is get a hold of a version that does not have some of these markings on it. For example, this Trails Information Board,
Mhm.
we may keep that bit of the trailhead, but they probably have another one over here. And I would use these as guidelines of where to place new markers.
So
So those additions would be important.
Yeah.
Highlighting incoming or in marking this for incoming visitors.
So cleaning this map up, adding the additional parking spaces, maybe Rebecca, Don, Jay, I mean, you all know the trailheads much better than I do. They look to all be correct to me. Is there anything that needs to be changed with trailhead locations?
Let me look. Good. Yes, I think that we need to take, going along with what Steve Eddy said, we need to take the trailhead off of Boulder Street and put it down by the lake.
That should probably be true for all trails, or
Well,
just come up with a
maybe.
different term. Come up with a different term that
Right, but
doesn't
this
lead
one is
people
at
to
the
think-
top of my list.
Okay, good.
Yeah. That would include making a change to this table because one would have to add probably one would need to add a column for the parking location, closest parking location, and then a description of how to walk along that road to the actual trail.
I like that.
Okay, would that be viable? We'll have to recalculate all the trail lengths.
I think it's a great idea, Jay.
Okay,
I want to go
good.
back to the trail map, and Rebecca, I may, and Steve, I may have a differing opinion about removing trailheads, because as we were speaking yesterday or speaking about wayfinding signage, it's like leaving breadcrumbs, and you need to know that you've arrived at the right location, and you need to know to come back to that location. And I do think that the trailheads, if we need to be consistent. If we're sending someone to a trailhead at Mount Dewey in a residential area, then we should send someone to a trailhead at every location. I think that we're doing a lot in the way of discouraging people from parking, and we're likely not to hit a home run at our first time at bat, but we're making a lot of progress here.
Yeah, I would agree. And, if we can't get around the trailhead designation, then I'm okay with seeing how it goes. So,
Jesse?
Well, maybe all trailhead parking is in town. There's no trailhead parking at a trailhead.
that
Jesse?
helps.
Yes, sir, Don?
I like Steve's suggestion about maybe coming up with a new terminology or an additional terminology like trailhead parking. And then designate possibly highlight a street to like the Dewey Trailhead from the Dewey Trailhead parking, the closest available parking. So it actually makes it part of the trail when you highlight a city street.
So
Another good idea.
that would involve an addition to this, an added column here. Is that what you're saying, Don?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, and I think that's great.
Okay, I'm going to start, this is kind of a working copy, and I will just start adding things to this as we talk, okay?
Yeah, and bear in mind during that discussion about wayfinding signage, if we're doing wayfinding signage at community entrances, saying that there's no public parking beyond that point, we're sort of fighting that on multiple levels now.
Probably have to come up with, I won't try to edit all this, but what I'll do is I'll put something together and send this round to people. This is going to take a lot longer to set up. These parking locations, we'll call these the Joyland, the tennis courts, the Olathe, Maple area, things like that. Is it best to refer to them by street names?
I think that's helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's go back to the trail map, and I hate to keep doing that to you guys, but let's go back to the trail map, and are we happy with Jay organizing this, adding the parking, and suggesting to the BOTs that this be our 2021 hiking map?
I'd want to make sure that whatever I do, I get group review. I'll be happy to put one together. What I need right now is a clean copy of this, or some similar map. I've looked around for variations. I'll have to see what I can start with, but editing some piece of this would be my next step.
Okay, and I believe that the base of this came from a Logan Simpson design that they did for the comp plan. So the start of this map probably came from Town Hall out of the comprehensive plan.
Jesse, Rebecca has her hand up.
Yeah, I was going to suggest if Jay could possibly contact Mike Lohman, because he did many maps, and he might have a clean copy of something that would be more useful.
Okay. Is Mike a local resident? I don't know him.
I'll get you his information if you like.
That would be super.
So do we want to give Jay any other directions, or do we want to see how far he can get before our next meeting? I don't think
vote on getting, I think we should get started as soon as possible. This is a wonderful idea, and thanks for all your work, Jay.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have a question.
Sure, Dan.
It has to do with the scale of the map and the area we're covering. Do we need a like maybe two scales? One that's encompasses and blows up the downtown area where the parking's located, or will you have enough to work with in getting it all in one map?
I think putting two scales together would be good. I actually cut this out of another piece, I've tried to cut out other pieces of other maps without much success. But if I can just put a marker on this, I'm just while we're talking, I'm going to if I take just this section of downtown, that would give us all the parking area, or rather, I'm sorry, just click, grab the wrong thing. I'm going to remove the fill. If I did this area, that's parking. Okay, that covers all the parking areas, and that would be the blown up area that you're referring to, Don. I could take this general map and excise this bit to show that. So it would be two pieces alongside. And that would provide a better reference for the various parking areas that we're recommending to people. Jesse, you may be familiar with the parking review. If there's a count of the number of parking spots that have been understood for various areas, you referred to this little diagonal parking area alongside Gazebo Lake has had about 10 slots. If the parking review came back with a firm number of the number of slots, putting a reference to those, if there's 10 here and 6 here and 20 near the tennis court, that would more or less warm people up to the idea of going to those spots to park, knowing that they wouldn't have to crowd in amongst other cars.
Yeah. My answer to that, I think it's a great idea, and I think we can get there, but I don't think we can get there quickly.
Okay.
For the example of I know at least of 2 of those properties, there has to be like a memo of understanding due between the private owner and the city, and how managed parking is going to work there. So I think it'll take a while to get there, but we can certainly have it be a goal.
Okay. This can be an editable, upgradable document over time. I just wanted to start that. If it was known, we could put it in. If it's not, I'll just point to this, but the 2-scale map or 2 sets of maps would be probably most useful.
Okay.
And I might change the orientation to fit it in better.
Yeah. So I'll say I'm willing to meet every week if that's what it takes for us to get something to the Board of Trustees to approve quickly, so that we have something ready for hikers and ambassadors.
Me too.
Okay. All right. I will target having something ready next week. To ask the question, I understand there's limitations on the open meeting law. Can I provide a copy of my work as it stands to the group before that time?
Yes.
That's kind of a question for Matt.
Yes. So the way you want to do it when you share it via email, since this is going to be an item for a future agenda, will just be to BCC everybody, so we don't accidentally create a meeting via email, but everybody's allowed to see the information.
And
Matt, are you there?
And we can respond back to Jay privately, right? As
Yes.
long as we're not doing it in a group.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. So as long as we're not doing it in the group, if I send an email to the team, is that okay?
Yeah, so here, I don't know if you heard me or not, Jay, I'll just say what I said again. When you send it out, it's the way you send it out. So when you email it, BCC everyone instead of CC, or send it to them directly. And then like Jesse was saying, if there are comments that people have, respond directly to Jay and don't include anybody else in the correspondence. That will stop us from violating open meeting law and accidentally creating a meeting via email.
Okay, I lost video.
Now I'm not going to share with them anymore.
That's it. All right, so I'm going to go back to the agenda then, Matt, because I think I think we have an understanding now of trail maps. I want to move to the next item, and I'm going to try to move through the rest of this agenda quickly because I have a little bit of an out, and if I have to leave early, I'll pass the reins to Jay if he's back. So the virtual trailhead, Clay, you did a great job on that. Thank you. Is that in our agenda packet, that drawing? So I'm referring to the drawing that Clay did of a new trailhead down by Maple Street. This is the trailhead that Jay was showing in his screen share that had all the information about the hikes. I think that we're on the right track here. You know, I would say that since Deani and since others have said to us, dream big and ask big, that maybe we reconsider that sign location, and maybe instead of having portalets, that I like the idea of renovating the pool building and being able to use those restrooms year round for our virtual trailhead. We have actual restrooms there that could be brought up to par and used rather than having porta potties. So, you know, I'd like that to be part of our recommendation when we get there. The Board of Trustees did see this, and they had a lot of positive comments about having a trailhead at this location at Pool Park by Maple Street. They liked the idea of having the map and the additional information. So I think we can continue to flush this out. I just wanted to mention those restrooms because it seems like we have a public asset that we're not fully taking advantage of there. Don, Rebecca, any comments on this?
You are a big dreamer, and I highly approve.
I agree. I like the concept of utilizing restrooms that already exist, and porta potties are not my thing. Okay, sometimes it's very traumatic to go into one of those. But the only other critique I would mention was since parking is very precious along that area, it appears as though that signage and trash can would take up some precious parking spaces that we wouldn't otherwise that we would need and wouldn't otherwise use if it was in the pool park area.
I agree with that, and I think that maybe something over closer to the pool parking would work. I'm glad Nancy is back. She may have been there the whole time and dropped off my screen. Nancy, as you think about trail ambassadors, I think Clay is spot on. This is probably the best place to capture the majority of our audience that we need to educate. What do you think about this location? And I think Don's right. It is chewing up some parking. Where else do you think it would work within the bounds of the park here?
Well, from the diagram itself, it looks like it's back away from the parking. It looks like there's parking off of the road still. Am I misreading something? So I don't think it would be eating up parking spaces. I don't know. Clay was the one who drew it, but that's sort of what I'm seeing.
This is Clay. It wouldn't be eating up parking spots.
Yeah, I think it reflects the depth of that would be on the down slope as it comes.
Sound like a hip hop song all of a sudden.
Right.
think we might have lost Jay again, unfortunately.
I'm on it now. I hope you can hear me.
Sorry to laugh.
I-
Jay, you're breaking up really, really bad.
Okay, I'll come back in. So
Looks like Jay backed out. Should be back shortly.
Can you guys hear me? This is Clay.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I lost mine and I had to go on my cell phone. But the parking there's that one little bump out off of the street, and I think the kiosk, the way that I have it drawn there, it shouldn't affect any parking along the street. There's enough depth between the road and the creek to put it in there if we lay some boulders in to fill in a little dirt.
Okay. Since we're going to be meeting a couple more times between now and the time that we would make a recommendation for this, I think I'd like to chew on it some more and give others a chance to chew on it based on today's discussion. And I know it's the first time a couple of our members are seeing this. Is that okay with everyone?
Yep.
So
yeah,
next
certainly.
on the agenda is a Trail Ambassadors update. And Nancy, I know that you've spoken to part of this. Please go on.
Sure, of
And
course.
Thank you so much. I mean, before we go any further, you are critical to all these things working. So thank you for stepping up and taking this on.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure. I mean, trails are a passion for me. That's the reason my husband and I retired here after building on a piece of land that we've had for 25 years. So, so this past week was a bit of a busy week. I had Matt generously copied off some flyers for me, and I put up if Matt scrolls down a little bit farther, put up some flyers downtown and have hit some of the trailheads with these flyers too, just to give the program some visibility. Also, it was posted on the Green Mountain Falls Facebook page. Mike Lohman, who we were talking about earlier, just contacted me today. He's going to put it on the Friends of You Pass Trails Facebook page also. Just had some emails with Matt this morning, and we're going to work on a page on the town website that will have an ambassador information on it. So next week, Matt and Zach, who's the intern,
Yeah,
planning intern?
Zach is our planning intern. He's been working with us. Oh, sorry, Virgil's calling me. He's since January.
So we're going to get together and sort of look at what a trail ambassador page on the town website would look like for, once again, informational visibility, recruit some more volunteers. I also sent out an email to last year's roster. Deani has a whole Google Doc folder that I have access to, and sent out a mass email to them. I heard from 8 people who are wanting to help again this year. That's not counting Todd or I or Deani. And there was also 2 from the Friends group who reached out to me that are wanting to help. They're summer residents. And I have about 5 of those people who are needing training. I know Deani is contacting Susan Davies so we can set up another training. Hopefully, maybe the trainer can train like me, and then I could just do some training so that we wouldn't have to just have a one and done. And if someone wanted to help during the summer, but they're only here for 2 weeks, I could give them a real, I don't know how it'll work, but we'll figure it out. Some kind of a training that they'll be able to help with the ambassador program when they're here. I'm also going to be setting up a Sign Up Genius. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but I used it a lot when I was director of my preschool. And that Sign Up Genius basically will be for the volunteers, and I'll have time slots for them to sign up, and it's free and is private. And it also gives out reminders, which is really, really nice. So I think that is my big update.
Thank you so much, Nancy.
Of course.
You made me think of something, and I'll forward this flyer out to our. I have a substantial list of green box volunteers that have helped over the years, and so I'll send that out to them. And that includes some employees down in the Springs that enjoy coming up. So maybe we'll get some traction there. So
Perfect.
committee members, if you can think of ways to publicize this and help, it is critical to our mission.
Thank you.
I'll keep Nancy on the line because the next item, we go to item number 6. We'll go to new business, and I received some correspondence from Nancy, which calls out the Hiker 5. And Nancy, I'll just let you speak to this. Immediately, I know that we'll add no parking in residential neighborhoods, and so this may be the Hiker 10 by the time we're done.
Well, if people don't know my background, I actually was an early childhood educator for 25 years. So I like to keep things simple. But when we would try to grab our preschoolers' attention, we would say, give me 5, and they'd have to have full body listening. And so I was walking this weekend. I'm like, I like to keep things simple. So I thought, well, let's figure out something that would be easy to share with the hikers, something that some hiker code of, behavior. And so I came up with this. This is a very, very, very rough draft. The input I sort of used for this was the code of conduct from the trail maps, the training we got as ambassadors, and also just some residential concerns. So you can see the 5 things that I have as being the Hiker 5 are: be respectful, be prepared, be informed, be curious, and be appreciative. So I will take any kind of and all kind of feedback on this. You can look it over, give me feedback on an email. If it's something that you think is good, maybe I should trash it. But I just thought it would be something that the ambassadors could use to just give the hikers, more information. And possibly, if we sort of decide on something like this, posting something, like this at each trailhead too, just as a reminder. Ambassadors aren't going to be there 24/7. So maybe this could just be a reminder. And granted, it needs to be zhuzhed up a little bit. I just put it together. So I'd love to have some feedback. If you like it, if you don't, whatever.
Nancy, I'll say that I love it. I think it's a creative way to list out our hiking rules, our rules of conduct for the Green Mountain Falls hiking trails. So I know that the Trails Committee put out a list. Virgil put out a wish list of things that he wanted to be on that. And so I asked Jay, when this came out as an agenda item, to compare your list with those other 2 lists. And since Jay's not here, I think I'd like to move this to the next meeting, because I think this would be great if it goes on the maps. I think if it goes on every trailhead, I think it's great. It's a friendly way to ask people to do things. We should definitely talk about parking. So if you're okay with this, with us moving this to the next meeting and talking about it again under old business, those are my thoughts. Don, Rebecca? So Don is agreeing, and
Jesse, I was able to join. I definitely think that this is actually improved over a lot of the reference lists that we have for hiking, because it highlights under that be appreciative, participate in the quiet of the woods is definitely going to reduce the impact of those hikers on the neighborhoods. Immediately across from Steve Eddy's home is a woman who has been trying to calm down the hikers. And I know people coming up to Crystal Falls are often very boisterous. That's not a normal consideration or a problem way out on rural trails, but it is here.
Yeah, I think this, you're right. This creates a really nice tone. We're
Well-
asking people to do things, but you're doing it in a very friendly way. I think, so let's all take this and sort of add some notes to it and bring back to the next meeting. Because I think we could say something about parking. We could say something about, you're walking through residential areas, be respectful to the homeowners. I think this is a great start, and I think it's probably really close. And I appreciate you doing it, Nancy.
Yeah, of course. That was something from the ambassador training, was just to keep everything positive. And as being a former educator, I mean, you do the positive. You don't say stop running, you say use your walking feet. So if you keep things positive, if you're not always saying don't, and stop, people are more receptive to, not having demands put on them, but, sort of suggestions, gentle suggestions.
Yes, I think just reading this before you walk out as a trail ambassador, makes you smile, makes you want to communicate the right information in the right way. So,
Yep. And there's a lot of extensions to this, but I'll bring that up later.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have one. I just have a real quick question for Nancy. Who we got her on the line, but
Sure.
it has to do with the trail ambassador's uniform. Have you considered, since we're, money is no problem, spare no expense while we're dreaming, but have you thought about possibly having more of a uniform instead of just a t-shirt for the ambassadors, so they look more like park rangers or officials?
That hasn't crossed my mind since we have the t-shirts. I figured we'll use what we got, but if we need to be more formal or official, possibly we can do that. I didn't realize we had all the money we wanted to use.
I didn't either. I think I may have helped push through that grant request to get the program started. I think it was small.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's a great question. It's a great question because the Trails Ambassadors program is going to, it's going to require some funding to continue. And so I think it's great to put together some asks and realize that it's going to need a budget to survive. And I think that that once people see the positive effects of it, they'll find a way. We'll find a way.
Thanks.
And even if it's a request, to wear khakis and hiking boots and that t-shirt, that's a start to have a uniform look that we all probably already own.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to move to the next agenda item, which is the Great American Cleanup. So a little late to the game with this, but there's a Great American Cleanup slated for Saturday, April 24th. There's some good activity going on around. We thought that, even if we can't tie into this actual event, that maybe we could use this day as a day to do our creek work on the Dorothy Contrail. That was listed as one of our potential as our spring cleanup. And so we thought maybe we could use this date to do that. It coincides with the groundbreaking ceremony for Skyspace. That is happening on Saturday, April the 24th at 10:30, and you all will be receiving invitations to that from me via email. And so Jay has joined us back, and Jay was going to do some checking around and about putting this together.
Okay, I hope I can stay on the audio this time. I did speak with the folks who are organizing the cleanup. We are late to the party to join their online registration. However, Ellie Shroop from the Fountain Creek Water District is going to give us a set of packages. There's some stickers, some cleanup materials, some signage, and I'll have that available. I'll be picking that up over the next couple of days, and I'll have that available on Saturday. Jesse, can you sketch the time for the groundbreaking? We could work around that, or perhaps even waylay some of the observers and bring them over.
I think you're right. The groundbreaking starts at 10:30 at the farm stand and ends at 11:30 on High Street.
Okay, so we could do sessions before and after. Clay, you had pointed to the maintenance work on the creek. Is that something we could tie into as well?
I'm not sure if Clay is still on, but he is currently muted.
Yeah, there are two Clays
There
on.
we- I'm having trouble. I'm on now. Excuse me. I'm having trouble with my reception here. So I've got my phone going and my computer, so I can keep at least one of them up. We could tie it in for that day. We're cleaning up along the creek, raking up sticks, any trash that's there be picked up, trying to level out some of the dirt and just make it nicer, throw a little grass seed out. And then I was hoping that we could get the town's equipment in there because there's some dirt that needs to be dug out. Some of the stuff for rebuilding that trail, I think, is a little more work than just a cleanup day. But definitely we could, the first time go around, just make it all a cleanup day and not do too much work on the creek. But
I like the sound. I like the sound of that, Clay, because I think you're right. I think this is sort of two projects. One is a cleanup, and the other is more of a town project. Matt, would you do some checking? Would you do some checking to make sure that we can do this? See what kind of approval we need from Town of Three Mountain Falls to move forward with this. But I would like to make a motion to allow Jay and Clay to come up with a program for that day and a budget and list of needs.
I would say I don't think there's any approvals or anything we need to do in terms of citizens going on public property and cleaning stuff up. But if you are requesting specific equipment from the town, I just would need the list to know what we need. And so I can communicate with Public Works what is and isn't possible to get for that particular day.
Okay. I think the Public Works side of this is probably something that can't happen with citizens around because of safety issues.
Yeah, and so in this case, I don't know what type of equipment. So if you're talking like something large and writable, I'm more than likely going to have to try and bring somebody in for OT on Saturday. But if it's, I'm trying to think like rakes and stuff, I just grab them and bring them to you.
Okay. Well, the way Clay, if the way you sketched that that dirt movement, that might be better done without people around, say prior to the event. If it was possible to schedule something, some maintenance equipment next week, that might match up real well. If that's done
Yeah,
before.
it would be great if we could get the dirt work with the town's equipment done before the 24th. I would not be in, I'm out of town. I won't be coming back, and I'm going to try to get there by the 24th, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it back into town that early. I was more like the 1st of May before I get back. So I wouldn't be able to help on that until after the 1st of May, as far as directing the town where the dirt needs cleaned up, but it's pretty obvious if you look at it.
Clay, are you in town now?
No.
Okay.
Guys, it feels like it's a big leap to try to get that done in the next 10 days. I sort of think organizing a cleanup between now and then is even still a little bit of a leap, but doable. Would we be okay to do the cleanup side and then sort of have it be a two-step process?
I think that's going to be best, Jesse. It's more realistic.
Okay.
Get it done. And then when I get back in town, we can check and see if the town equipment would be available to do that. And then I would be there to help and talk about, and then actually help do the work if we got the equipment. That's the big thing, is the equipment.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor now to allow Jay and Clay to come up with a program for this cleanup, and to move it forward. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sounds good.
Aye.
Yes, aye.
Then it passes. And Jay and Clay, thank you in advance for putting this together, and I look forward to helping you guys with that. Shoot out and a blind copy in the group, things that we need that we're not getting from Allie, and I'll put on my thinking cap and see if I can help come up with some items too, and make sure I include Matt in that, because if town equipment we can use, then that's great too, meaning hand tools. But I bet between us we've got everything that we need.
Okay. So again, I'll put together a list of things that I'm getting from Ali Shu, and then I'll share that with the group, and Clay can follow with his comments on the stream maintenance.
Okay.
So that would be kind of an agenda for that.
And Jay, will you be our crew leader that day?
Yeah, I'll be here definitely on the 24th.
I also
Great.
planned on being there. I'm glad we're deciding to do this, so I can provide some assistance as well.
Great. That's I feel like everybody's going to be there but Clay.
Oh, I'm
But-
going to try. I'll try to be there.
Yeah, but Clay, it's your
Hey,
idea.
no.
It's Clay's idea, and we're moving it forward. So thank you, Clay.
No problem.
Next on the agenda, and I know I'm rushing you guys because I'm late to be somewhere. Next on the agenda is gopher control. And that was an item that we were going to make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees about. I think that there's a lack of awareness by Public Works of the amount of damage that's happening due to the gophers. We've talked about in our meetings the damage to the ground, erosion control to the creeks, and the damage happening to the trees. So Clay, since you had the most knowledge about that, I'm wondering if you would, prior to the next meeting, draft a short memo to the Board of Trustees just outlining that, and with possible ways of remediation. And we'll look at it at our next meeting and sort of prove it to move forward.
Okay, I'll put together something and send it out to everybody the way that we discussed earlier. I've been sending stuff out wrong, so I'll try to keep us out of trouble there next time.
Okay.
Jesse, I'm not trying to make you any later than you are. Apologies. I just wanted to double check since I've only been here a couple months. But this seems like a really focused on operations type thing. And I'm almost thinking you guys could come directly to me. I could forward this to Angie and Public Works instead of going directly to the board with it, if that's what the committee would prefer. But I'm more than happy to forward it onto the board either way. But just with this, since I'm here, I figure this might be something that I could bring up directly to town staff and maybe get something rolling.
Yeah, Matt.
I agree.
Yeah, thanks for reminding us of that step, Matt. That's even better and quicker.
So what I'll do, Clay, if you don't mind, if you could just provide me with additional info about what you know about the Gophers, because I am not a Gopher expert by any means. But once we have that info, I could pass it along to Public Works and Angie, and we could try and come up with something. I don't know if it'll be before the next meeting, since we're talking about doing one next week, but within the next couple weeks.
I'll get you something as soon as I can put something together on the Gophers. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to all of us, but make sure you're there too, Matt.
Perfect.
Great. So I'm going to move on to agenda item number 7, which is correspondence. And the only correspondence I'm aware of is the Hiker 5 memo from Nancy, which we have discussed. Matt, did we have any correspondence that I'm not aware of?
I did not receive additional correspondence.
And then I'm going to move to the next agenda item, which is reports. Does anyone have a report they would like to give?
I have a 2-hour report. I would like to start right now. No, I'm kidding.
Jay, I will hand the meeting over to you. I'm kidding. Jokes aside, then no reports. Before I adjourn, I want to say that I'm thrilled to be working with this group. I think we've already accomplished a lot of things. I think there are folks over on fire mitigation who have a more difficult job, but they're jealous that we're moving through our goals rather quickly, and I appreciate everyone working so hard on that. Also, just a note that with managed parking, with wayfinding signage, with the work that we're all doing on trail maps and virtual trailheads and hiking information, I think that we're really going to impact the town in a positive way. And I appreciate everyone working hard together to do that. If there's nothing else, I would like someone to, I forget how to adjourn the meeting every time, Matt.
Okay, there's a little bit of leeway, but sometimes since we're pretty informal, you could just adjourn it.
All right, anyone have anything else before I adjourn?
Nope.
Nope. You did great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jesse, for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're good. Take care.
Nancy, thank you.
Bye.
Have a great evening, everybody.